What's up? Alex here from Revv, and in this video I'm going to show you how to go about programming MIDI changes with your G20 amp. So before we dive in, I just want to let you know what gear I'll be using. I'll be using my Line 6 Helix for all the MIDI changes, but any MIDI controller should do. I'm just going to use the Helix because it's what I have, and also it can be used for program change messages and continuous controller change messages, which are two different kinds of MIDI messages, which we'll get into a little bit later. To start, MIDI, super powerful feature of your G20. It can be used to switch any state of your amp, meaning both in settings of, let's say, the wide switch, the aggression settings, the 4 watt to 20 watt switching capabilities, the pre or post power tube emulation, whether you're using the 2 notes or using the one in the G20. It can also change the virtual cabinets you're using, and you can go as deep as changing even settings in the virtual cabinet. So the sky is really the limit, but I just wanted to go over kind of the basics so that you can get set up with your G20 at home. So to start, in order to obviously change or use a MIDI control to change your amp, you're going to have to connect it via MIDI. So at home, you're going to want to connect your MIDI foot switch, whether it's a Helix or something else, the MIDI out of that into the MIDI in of your amp, and make sure that it can transmit MIDI messages, right? So I've done that already with my Helix connected to the G20. The G20 is set up in a way that it automatically detects MIDI messages. So you don't really have to set up anything beyond that. Just plug in the MIDI cable and the G20 should detect it once you start sending it MIDI data. So let's go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to jump in the Helix editor here just so it's easier to show you guys what's going on. And to start, we're going to want to switch the amp to something that we want for it to recall via MIDI. So let's go ahead and set the amp to a setting that we want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and switch it to the second channel, the gain channel. I'm going to move it up to the second aggression setting because there's 3 aggression levels. We're on the second one, and I'm going to turn on the wide switch as well. So with a setting, let's say this is the setting I wanted, then once it's configured in a way that you like, you're going to want to hit the store button. Make sure I hit the right button. Once you hit that button, it'll be flashing on and off like you can see. And once it's in this mode, now it's waiting to receive MIDI data. All right, so once we've set that, we're going to jump into the Line 6 Helix editor, and we're going to open the command center. And this is where all of your MIDI communication and messages and programming is done. This is kind of like the master hub of where it happens. So let's go ahead and click on footswitch 2 because these 2 foot switches are typically used for changing preset banks. So I'm just going to use this foot switch for this first change. And we're going to go here to what kind of command we want. And here's where I'll talk about a little bit of the different MIDI commands. A MIDI program change command basically is like a preset, and it will store the information of various different parameters to one MIDI number. So if we choose this, it will store both the channel we're on, the aggression setting, whether the wide switch is on and off, and any further specific changes we have to one number. So this is the one we want to use for just the preset that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And you don't have to worry about too much here, but what you want to worry about is make sure your MIDI channel is on bass. That'll do for now. And then you want to change this program to a number. And this will basically program your G20 to recall all the parameters you have set when it receives this number. So let's say I wanted the preset that we had arranged set to number 1. I'll set this to 1, and then every time I send a MIDI message with the program 1 to the G20, it will recall these settings. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done. First of all, I'm going to go ahead on my Helix and hit the foot switch, and then you'll see that the store button will flash. Great, so it flashed and then it turned off, and that means that your G20's received some MIDI messages. So now every time I hit that foot switch, it will automatically recall this setting. All right, so to show you how you can go about building more presets and different settings, I'm going to reopen the command center. Okay, I'm going to change these settings. So I'm going to change the amp to, let's say, the clean. With the wide switch on. Okay, let's say I want that setting. Now on this second foot switch, or whatever foot switch you want really, I'm going to go again into bank program. I'm going to find the program number, and I'm going to go to number 2. If I would do number 1, let's go back here. If I would go to program 1, this would recall the first preset we made. But now if I go to 2, this number will be attached to this setting of the amp. All right, so we'll hit done. And then I'll press the store button again. So now the G20 is waiting to get MIDI data. I'm going to hit the second foot switch. Great, so it received that message, and now it's stored this setting to program change number 2. And if I go back to number 1, you'll see it recall the first preset we did. So now I have 2 different presets attached to my foot switch. Pretty simple, pretty easy, and sky's the limit with what you can do. Once you create a preset and store it to the G20, it automatically stores the virtual cabinet information to a specific MIDI number. All right, so if I wanted to have a different virtual cabinet set for a specific amp setting that I'm setting up, you're going to want to save the cabinet to that specific number slot, and these slots are found here. The first 6 are basically the 6 presets on the rotary selector on the front of your G20, and this is what they represent. So if you wanted one of your presets in the first 6 to be different, you change the cabinet first, then you would change the set amp settings you want, then you would set it up to receive MIDI data, send the MIDI data, and in that order, then you'll have the cabinet set to what you want, and you can't really change it afterwards. And then the sky's the limit. Like, you can set as many cabinets and as many presets as you want, all the way to 128. You can have a lot of presets going on, and this is where you would do it. This is where you would change the cabinet and the virtual setup in the Tuno software. The next kind of MIDI message I want to talk about is called a continuous controller message, and it's short for CC MIDI message. And the difference between a PC program change MIDI message and a CC message is that a PC message basically is like a preset. It recalls and stores a bunch of different parameters and settings into one program change, so that when you hit it, it changes like the channel setting, it changes the aggression, it might change cabinets, all those things into one kind of printed preset. And then a MIDI CC message, on the other hand, basically toggles the features of your amp, similar to a traditional foot switch. So if you want to, say, have a foot switch that controls the aggression settings of your amp, or if you wanted a foot switch to control just changing channels, or something that's that can be toggled on your amp, you would use, in this case, a CC message, a MIDI CC command. And I'll show you how to do that. So for every feature on your amp, basically, there's a specific MIDI number attached to that specific feature. And you can reference the official G20 manual that there'll be a link to in the description below. But basically, any parameter that you want to attach to a toggleable MIDI switch, you'll have to find the number and then send that specific number to your amp. So let's say I wanted to go, I wanted a switch that brought me to the low aggression setting of my channel 2. The number for that is 18. So I would go back into the command center, open this up, And we're going to do this on footswitch 3, or 4, I should say, but the middle one. And then we're going to go into CC toggle, okay? Because I won't get into it, but basically you need this kind of message with the Helix. And what you want to do is go to CC number, and the number we said we wanted was 18. Okay, and this is all in the manual. You can find this in the manual. And this means that this foot switch will recall the channel 2 low aggression setting of my amp when I hit it. So we're going to hit done, and then I'm going to hit that switch. And just like that, that foot switch is now connected to that specific setting on my amp. All right, so if I jump back to a preset, that's a program change message. And if I go to the other foot switch we just programmed, that's a MIDI CC command. And I'll show you another application of this that can go farther. You could sky's the limit with this stuff, really, but I just want to show you maybe a useful feature is that you can use a switch to switch on and off the internal reverb of your 2-Note software, because as we know in the 2-Note software there's built-in reverb, there's also power amp emulation and all EQ and all this stuff, and you can toggle all of these settings with MIDI CC commands. So I'll show you real quick how we can go about toggling on and off the reverb. So for the 2-Notes reverb, the number is 26. So let's go ahead and jump back in here, open the command center. We'll go here. I already have a CC toggle, but let's say there was none. You'd open CC toggle, and then you'd find the number, which was 26 for the 2-Notes reverb toggle, excuse me. Hit done. And then now if I hit that foot switch, it should toggle on and off the reverb. So just like that, I now have 3 different presets with different kinds of MIDI messages, and I have a universal switch to toggle the internal reverb of the 2-Notes. So just with that, I have so many tonal options, and sky is the limit. So I hope this tutorial helped you. And if you have any questions, drop a comment below in the description, and we'll be happy to answer you.